game, make a game, what's a game, what's a name? I'm a Kamen Rider.
What's up, everybody? It's the Quarter Guy, and of all the games the Brewers won on opening weekend, how come the one they lost was the one I went to? Shaking my head. But, time for the latest update I saw this week in gaming news. Remember back in the 90s when it was the whole console war between Nintendo and Sega? When Nintendo dominated the market in the mid-80s and into the 90s with the NES, and then Sega just came in with the Genesis. Genesis does what Nintendon't. Well, it looks like Genesis is about to do what Nintendo did a few years back. It was recently announced that Sega is releasing the Genesis Mini this September. It's just like the NES Classic and Super NES Classic. It's a smaller plug-and-play version of their original console. It's scheduled to be released this September for about $80, and it's supposed to have 40 games on it. We already know a few of them. The Japanese version will have Castlevania Bloodlines, Comic Zone, Gunstar Heroes, Monogatari Ichi, Powerball, Puyo Puyo 2, Rent-a-Hero, Shining Force, Sonic 2, and Space Harrier 2. I'm expecting some of those to be shared with the US version. While the games we know are on the US version so far include Altered Beast, Castlevania Bloodlines, Comic Zone, hey, shared games already there, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Ecto the Dolphin, Gunstar Heroes, Shining Force, the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Harrier 2, and ToeJam and Earl. And the rest of the games will no doubt be revealed as we get closer to the launch. We do have some other minor differences between the Genesis Mini and the Mega Drive Mini in Japan. The Japanese version will come with 6-button controllers, while the US version will come with the 3-button controllers, which I think is a rather baffling decision to have the 3-button controllers with the US version. I mean, some games require the 6-button controllers, stuff like Eternal Champions or the... I doubt they're going to include the Street Fighter 2 port on the Genesis, but... that being said, the Genesis version will feature USB ports for the controllers, standard USB ports for the controllers, and even a sliding... even the sliding component for the cartridge component. Don't know what point that's going to have, though, but... granted, I'm not surprised that Sega is doing this. I mean, the mini consoles have gained popularity ever since the NES Classic was first released. But then again, it's a thing that's been happening since even before the NES Classic, so... but probably the most encouraging thing about this, At Games is nowhere to be seen. I mean, Sega licensed their stuff to At Games to make previous plug-and-play consoles that weren't exactly good, especially in the sound emulation department, from what I understand, but this one is being done by an internal developer, Sega M2, as what I understand. But this is going to be an interesting thing. Hopefully, we'll see more details on this as it comes down the line before I decide whether or not it's actually worth it. I mean, that's why I waited on the PlayStation Classic and eventually decided not to get it because, yeah, the more we learned about it, the more of a train wreck it was. So, I am looking forward to hearing more about this, but not as much as I am to Joker finally being released to Smash Ultimate. The month is finally here, so... And I think it's likely we're going to get a Nintendo Direct sometime in April, before Joker drops. Might be Smash Focus, might be something else, but we did have a Nintendo Direct a couple months back, so... yeah, that's likely to happen in some form. Updates. I'm about to start scripting my next arcade retrospective, which is, as you know, Ninja Baseball Batman. So, look forward to that this month, while I think of a topic for May. And in the next few days, I'm expecting to release an updated Patreon video with more info on the new Discord server for patrons and close friends. So expect to see that. And for my question of the week, what are your first impressions of the Sega Genesis Mini? As always, answers in the comments. Favorite comments will be featured in the next episode. Here are last week's winners. And with that, time for the fourth wall mailbag. As always, look for the community post and I'll answer my favorite questions on the next episode. First question this week comes from Josh McCallop, who asks, which of these characters do you think should be in Smash? Lana from Hyrule Warriors, Dante from the Devil May Cry series, or Jin from Tekken? I am honestly going to say that in terms of fan favorites, I think Dante would honestly be the best choice, considering how successful Devil May Cry 5 was in its first few days, and the stuff that's being added to it. And the fact that Devil May Cry has become one of Capcom's most popular series over the years. I mean, Dante is a fan-favorite character, so of those three, he'd probably have the most chance, if he was even considered by Nintendo, for that matter. Remember, the characters have already been locked in. Lana isn't exactly iconic, but then again, not all Smash characters are iconic. But Lana was just a character from my spin-off, so she wouldn't be likely to be on Nintendo's radar. And as for the Tekken series, if anybody got in from Tekken, I think the most likely character would be Heihachi. He's probably the most recognizable character, with Jin probably second or third most recognized. So, if anybody from Tekken got in, they'd probably pick Heihachi before anyone else. Still, if Dante gets into Smash, I can only imagine how much my Twitter feed's going to explode with memes. Next question comes from Dill Fortune, who asks, if Phoenix Wright was added in Smash Bros., which songs from the franchise do you want to see added? Well, it's pretty obvious, but it's going to be a general selection. It's probably going to be a combination of the cross-examination themes, like the objection themes, and the cornered themes. Most likely the ones from the original and from Dual Destinies. Those are probably the most iconic cornered themes, considering that there was one from the original as iconic as it is and was one of Phoenix's themes in Ultimate Marvel 3, and Dual Destinies, well, that was the one from Phoenix's proper jump to the 3DS, so those are probably the best well-known. I may be wrong, don't quote me on that, but those are the songs I expect. Next question comes from Silent Protagonist, who asks, have you ever considered doing a Monster Hunter month? Well, not really, for a couple reasons. The first one being is, in Monster Hunter, the things you really only can really consider are the monsters themselves. And I've already made a list of monsters from one game, a list of worst monsters, which I did with Ragnilla, and an updated list of my favorite monsters from the whole series, which I released just earlier this month. So, there's really no point in doing a month of it. And second, I really don't have the time to dedicate to making a full month's worth of countdowns as it stands right now. I mean, like I've brought up in the past, I have a 9-to-5 office job, so I'm dividing that between, I'm juggling that with my channel, so I really don't have time to make a full month's worth of countdowns without, well, taking a whole month off to actually do the whole thing. So, don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Last question this week comes from Master Driver Rex, who asks, would you ever do a top 10 ladies in video games for a Valentine's Day episode in the future? Note to self. Countdown idea.